Hey guys, what's up? Tyler Cedarwall here, and welcome back to Let's Build the Ultimate Theme Park in Mario Kart. Oh wait, no, this is Planet Coaster. My bad. Last episode, we finished building our very first coaster in the park that we're flying through right now. It took us a long time, but I think all of the effort was definitely worth it. And in the comment section, I asked you guys to give me some name ideas for the coaster, and the name I ended up picking for this coaster is the Manhattan Project. And the comment was given to me by a dude, or maybe it's a girl, I don't know the exact gender of the person, is Mega Matroid. So thank you for that comment suggestion. And for those of you who don't know what the Manhattan Project is, it was the codename for the development of nuclear weapons back in World War II. And since we have a laboratory, we didn't actually have a purpose for the laboratory. Now I guess we can go ahead and assume that the laboratory's purpose was to develop nuclear weapons. So, you know, that's a great thing. And then the laboratory starts to explode. I feel like if I was to choose a type of laboratory to explode, one full of nuclear weapons would be the last choice. But, you know, we're just gonna roll with it. And then a comment that I thought was funny and creative was somebody said we should name the roller coaster 2016 since everything starts out really nice and then kind of just all goes wrong as time goes along. Okay, so this episode, we are finally going to move on to new things. Even though it was a fun time building that coaster, I'm excited that we're finally going to move on and build some new stuff. Now, we are going to start building the next coaster in this episode later on, but the very first thing I did was I dug out a lake. And one of the cool things about this game is there's 4 different types of water you can put into your lakes and ponds and things of that sort. There is calm water, rough water, standing water, and dirty water. So you can definitely have a nice variety of water types, and I think it's really cool that they allow you to have a different variety of water types. And I ended up going with rough water for this pond just because I thought it looked a lot more dynamic because of all the ripples. And I don't know, makes it seem like you're at a park on a windy day too. Now the next thing I'm building is a little gift shop that's going to extend over the pond a little bit, and I'm going to put some benches in it so people can go and just sit and enjoy the water and enjoy the nice weather and maybe buy some gifts to take home to their family. I like to put tons of shops in my parks because if you ever go to any theme park, there is just a million shops everywhere, which I don't fully understand because I feel like whenever I go to theme parks, I never really buy anything. But maybe that's also because I'm poor. There might be a very strong correlation between the two. So real quick, while we're kind of building something that's not entirely important, I want to give you guys kind of my rundown or my plan of action for the next several episodes on what we're going to build. So we're building this gift shop right now, and then towards the end of this episode, we're going to start building the next coaster, which I've told you time and time again, I'm really excited for you to see because it ended up turning out super cool. And then after we build that coaster, we're going to go through and fill in all of the empty spaces in the sci-fi section so far with more buildings. Some ideas I have are some like cool restrooms, some restaurants. I really want to try to make a restaurant that has tables and stuff at it because you can put benches down and then you can make tables with the custom scenery options. There's actually shapes that you can use and put together to almost create some of your own scenery. You can really combine scenery to make some really neat stuff in this game. I haven't done much of that yet, but it's something I definitely want to do more of in the future. So I want to build some like tables and then put benches at them and make it seem like people are going to these restaurants and eating, which is what people do at restaurants, obviously. I'm not sure why I'm acting so awkward this episode, but I am. Another thing I think would be really cool to add is an arcade. I saw, there actually isn't arcade games, but I saw on a content highlight for Planet Coaster that somebody made, that somebody was able to actually make an arcade with those custom shapes and by combining different pieces of scenery. So I definitely want to try my hand at that and build like a cool sci-fi arcade. I feel like that would be a really cool addition to the park. I'd also like to play some lockers. You know when you go to a theme park and you need to ride, say, a water ride or a roller coaster, and you don't want to lose your belongings, so you can purchase a locker for an hour or so and put your belongings in it to keep them safe? Well, we can actually create something like that. They won't actually be usable lockers that customers can use, but what you can do to kind of make it seem a bit more lifelike is you can place an ATM next to the lockers you create, and the customers will go up to the ATM and use the ATM, but you can decorate the ATM to make it look like it actually belongs to the lockers, so it seems like people are purchasing locker space instead of using the ATM. You kind of have to use your imagination a little bit, but it's really cool. I got that idea from a YouTuber named Silverette. He's a really good Planet Coaster builder. If you guys want to see more cool Planet Coaster content, definitely check him out. He has lots of cool ideas and has given me lots of inspiration through his stuff. I'd actually like to talk to him sometime and, you know, bounce off some Planet Coaster ideas. Also, speaking of Silverette, that kind of makes me curious. Do you guys watch any other YouTubers that make Planet Coaster videos or Planet Coaster series? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll go ahead and check out any other YouTubers you watch that make Planet Coaster videos, because I'm definitely looking for other people who make good Planet Coaster content, because personally, I can't get enough of this game. I think it's so great, and I'm always excited to see what other people are creating. And I've also just seen some really good creations in Planet Coaster, just people who post their videos of their finished rides onto YouTube. And I kind of wish more of them also made series like the one I'm making right now, where they show themselves building it and then talk about the thought process and ideas they have while building it, so you can see it get constructed and put together. I kind of think one of the coolest things about seeing rides put together is just the anticipation of waiting to see what's going to happen next, or what else is that person going to come up with. That's why I'm personally enjoying making this series, because I love kind of leaving you guys anticipating what I'm going to create next. Alright, and now we're getting closer to finishing this gift shop. We put in some benches and some trash cans. Everything's looking real nice, and now we're putting in some gears to make it seem a bit more futuristic, even though the building style's a bit more futuristic. One of my favorite things about this gift shop is just the wavy roof. I don't know why I love it so much, but the wavy roof just looks so sleek. And this gift shop is turning out pretty nice. One of the things I love about this game is you're pretty much making a park that is just perfect. All of the guests are always so happy. They look at everything with so much amazement. Everything looks so clean and shiny and slick. It just seems like you're going to literally the perfect theme park. And now I'm adding some lights into this gift shop just so it looks nice during the nighttime. I'll probably come back and add some color lights in the future and light things up and make it look nicer. That's something else I'm probably going to do towards the entrance, as well as add just even more colored lights and just really liven it up a bit. I would actually go as far as to say that colored lights are one of my favorite aspects about this game in general. They really just allow you to add an ambience and mood to so many different sections of your park that you wouldn't be able to do without colored lights. And now I'm adding some flower boxes to the corners, even though they don't look futuristic necessarily. I thought it was still nice to keep things looking a little bit traditional, since we're still kind of close to the beginning generic section of the park. I wanted to, as I said last episode as well, kind of have a nice flow between the general section of the park to the sci-fi section. So the further you get into the sci-fi section, the more sci-fi it'll look. But now it is time to build our next roller coaster. So I said a few episodes ago that every single ride I build, I'm gonna make it my goal to try to do something new with that ride. So for the first ride, my goal was to really just go all out with the triggers and just try to make a ride seem like a cinematic experience. For this ride, my goal was to really play around with the terrain tools and make a ride that really utilizes the terrain tools to their max capabilities. So kind of what I was going for with this ride is I'm going to build an inverted coaster, and I wanted to have a coaster that just wrapped around this surreal looking mountain that sort of looked like something you would see in space, that has tons of cool arches, caves, valleys, tons of weird stuff. So this is going to be a very massive structure. It's a very massive ride, but the bigger the rides, usually the better they are. Sometimes it's nice to keep rides compact, but at the same time, we have so much space in this park that I don't even know what we're going to do with all this space. So I'm really going all out with every single ride and just making it look the best it possibly can. Now, as I said, I love the rock textures in this game. I like how three-dimensional these textures look, even though they are just two-dimensional. I think it's really neat. And now, for this mountain, I started with a more generic structure. It doesn't look that generic, but I didn't add too much detail because I didn't want to add details until I actually started building the ride. And right here, you can see me kind of experimenting to see if I could fit any rides in this space next to this laboratory. But unfortunately, there wasn't actually any rides that were small enough to fit in that space. So what we're going to end up having to do is just place restaurants and bathrooms and gift shops to fill in that space, which is entirely okay with me. And then I stretched the path alongside the ride, so there would be a path that can easily connect to the station that we just built for this new inverted coaster. At first, that wasn't easy, having the path that close to the launch section of the Manhattan Project. But then I realized it'd actually be really cool to do that, because there's this coaster in this theme park that I live close to called Silver Dollar City, called the Powder Keg. And it's very similar. It launches you out of kind of like a shack. Pretty much what happens in the coaster is you're in a shack and there's nitroglycerin, and you hear some hillbillies talking. They're like, oh, don't get too close to the nitroglycerin. And then they do, and then it ends up setting off an explosion that launches you out of the shack. And then your family can actually stand next to the coaster track where you're launched out and like watch you get launched out, which is really fun to see people. You can take pictures of your family and friends. So I decided that I'll end up putting some fences there and kind of make it look like an area where people can watch their family just get launched out of this crazy tunnel. We're not going to add the details to that path for a while though, because I first want to finish this coaster before we go and fill up all those spaces, because I just want to have 2 major rides in this park before I go and start adding tons of small details to the actual path, just because I wanted to know what space I was going to have to work with exactly. So I wanted to get this coaster done. Anyways, speaking of this coaster, I ended up choosing an inverted style coaster for this ride. If you don't know what an inverted roller coaster is, it's a roller coaster where your cart hangs from the track instead of being on top of the track. And inverted coasters are actually one of my favorite type of roller coaster, because I feel like 1, they usually ride a lot more smoothly than regular roller coasters, and 2, I feel like they're a lot more comfortable. I like how they have the harnesses that come over your shoulders to strap you in, instead of the ones that come over your lap and like hold your legs in place. I like having my feet dangle on a roller coaster. I feel like it's a lot more freeing and a lot more comfortable. I also feel way more secure going through loops and twists and corkscrews when I have the harness securing me in, just because a harness feels way more secure than having something over your lap. Alright, so we have our very first major drop on this coaster, and it's pretty steep, it's very large, and I'm using that speed and momentum to do this like 0 gravity G-roll over this whole entire mountain that comes back down on the other side through this giant hole or arch that we made. And I think it turned out pretty epic. I think the very first drop ended up being pretty spectacular. Now, if you haven't noticed and forgot, I lowered the speed of the footage back down to 200% when we're building roller coasters, because I want you guys to see the intricacy of building the rides. I feel like building the rides is a lot more interesting than building the scenery. There's a lot more complexity to it than just placing tons of scenery items over and over again. So I lowered it so you guys could really see the process I went through on placing every single piece of track individually. So yes, we have this very first gigantic loop around the arch, and then I wanted to have it circle around the arch a couple more times, because I think it just looks really cool to have the coaster really interact with the terrain as much as possible. Now, even though I said that this type of coaster is really good for loops and corkscrews and that type of stuff, I ended up not actually ever really adding any loops to this ride. I kind of wanted it to feel more like an organic ride that just kind of was built to flow with the terrain, and that is what I did. Now, I did have parts where the coaster does go upside down, because it goes upside down as it goes along. Sorry, I just laughed because I laugh every single time I just watch the train just get launched off the end of the track. It's just so hilarious that it just does that. In Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, the coaster would just like disappear at the end, but in this game, whenever you have it in test mode, it just flies off the end and it's like, whatever, yeep! Sorry, I love that sound. I'm pretty sure that sound originated from, was it the Viner, Twames? I'm not sure. Do any of you guys know who Twames is? He used to be a Viner. He makes YouTube videos too. I need to look up his channel. I haven't watched him in a long time, but I used to think he was really funny. And he would do this thing where he would just like throw his like finger in the sky and be like, yeet! I don't know. Anyways, that's a random tangent. But yes, this coaster does go upside down a few times because it goes upside down during that 0G gravity roll over the whole entire archway. But I don't want to have any like loops. I don't know why I didn't want to have that for this type of ride, but I didn't. I mean, I don't need reasoning for everything I do. Sometimes I can just do stuff because that's what I do. Okay, that might have come off a little bit rude. I'm sorry, I did not mean to hurt your feelings. I doubt I hurt anybody's feelings just now. Even though a couple videos ago, I made that joke where I introduced the video where I said, hello, Homo sapiens. And then I was like, wait, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to assume your species. And then somebody got really mad because I was obviously kind of making a joke about like the whole, did you just assume my gender? But instead, did you just assume my species? And they were like, gender identity is not something to joke about. And I'm like, I like to joke about everything though. That's kind of what I do on my channel. I'm kind of, for this series, I've been a lot more tame with my jokes. I've been trying to keep this series pretty much PG because I wanted to make it more professional for some reason. I'm definitely trying to take a different turn with this series in particular, which you definitely have probably noticed. But I still didn't think that was an offensive joke in the slightest, but I guess people take offense to different things. Anyway, so what I did next on the coaster is I had the coaster plunge into this gigantic deep tunnel that ends up spouting you out on the other side, and you do this other 0G gravity roll right in front of the path, which is kind of what I wanted to have. It's kind of like what I would like to describe as the foreground of the ride. Because when you see the ride, there's the part in the middle, which is the gigantic archway, and it kind of seems far away. There's a part in the distance, which is the background, which is like the chain lift, and then I want to have something in the foreground, something that really just like popped towards you. So like the track would come towards the people watching the ride, and you could see them up close, and you could see their terrified faces as they come along that gigantic 0G gravity roll. Then after you go through that 0G gravity roll, you end up going through this really long cave. Now inside this cave, I'm gonna put some scenery. I'm not exactly sure what I want to put inside of it yet, but I definitely think I might go for like some underground like alien base. And something else I want to talk about that I think is a really cool addition to the terrain tool is that it does not affect the rides or the buildings around it. So if you build terrain, like say, for example, say you had a building and then you took a really large paintbrush tool to add a hill. If you put that hill on top of the building, instead of affecting the building whatsoever, it'll actually build the terrain around the building. So it'll pretty much make that building inside of a cave, which is really cool because it allows you could make a pretty much underground theme park if you wanted to with ease. Like that would be something you could easily do. So that'll probably be something I try to do in the future, is make a ride that is mainly underground and try to really experiment with that. I didn't really do that with this ride, but that is definitely something I want to try out in the future. The reason I bring this up though is because back when we were building that cave, there's actually parts of the track that are exposed to the sun, and that's not what we wanted. But it is really easy to go back and fix that with the terrain tool. All you have to do is just build terrain right on top of it, and it'll just easily bury the coaster and you'll have no problems whatsoever. Very easy fix. And then at this point of the ride, I felt like the coaster was getting a bit long, so I made it my goal to slow the train down and bring it back to the station. So I decided to bring it back around the mountain one more time, have it go through one more cave, and then have it come back around and finish up. Now one other thing I want to touch upon is another feature when building the tracks, and it's the smooth track button, which allows you to select a portion of your track and then you click the smooth button and it'll smooth out all the corners and make it a bit more fluid. I've actually known about the feature. Lots of people were advising me to use it on the Manhattan project when they saw the first draft of it quite a few episodes ago, and I ended up smoothing out the ride. I don't think I included the footage because I don't think I just included any of the footage of tweaking the actual track itself because it just didn't seem too important of information for you guys to consume for the building process. But I ended up doing it for the Manhattan project. It is a lot more smooth compared to when we first wrote it. And when I built this coaster, I actually didn't need to smooth it out too much, but I did go through and smooth it out just to make sure everything on this coaster was perfect and fluid. And another goal I have for this coaster was to make the ending a bit more tame, because on the Manhattan project, it kind of goes back into the station a bit more quickly than I would like. I just didn't have much space, and I'm trying to improve my coasters as we move along. But I wanted this coaster to have a very smooth and steady flow back into the station, and I definitely pulled it off. I love the ending to this ride. It just feels so perfect, and I can't wait for you guys to see it when we ride the coaster. Another thing I want to do for future coasters that I didn't do for this ride, but I want to definitely incorporate it, is usually when you're riding a roller coaster, there's a section of track off to the side of the actual track where the trains are stored and tended to by maintenance. A commenter named Marjo Sonic really said that I should start adding those to the rides. So on the coaster after this, I'm going to start adding those sections where they can tend to and maintain trains. And with that, we have completed this roller coaster for now. So I think I'm going to end this video here since we've gotten quite a bit done. But to end the video, we will of course ride the ride as it is in its very first draft form. So you can see where it is now and how it compares to the ride later on. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to you guys, and I hope you enjoyed the first version of the ride. See you next episode.